Welcome to the Gathering Greenhouse, a podcast to help us grow together. I'm Steve.
And I'm Andrew.
And we got John over here and our live studio audience consisting of Matt. He's hyped this morning.
Our one fan today.
Yeah. So first off, I just wanted to say great job on Sunday. I know that you put a lot, I could tell you put a lot of effort into it. Your words were very well thought through, and that was a segue into words being important as well.
I appreciate it. That's what happens when you go to Starbucks for 2 whole days and sit down with headphones and think, what am I going to say?
Right.
Especially like, how do we control our tongues, So I appreciate it though.
Do you enjoy the process?
I do. I really do. But I'm someone who's like, I have to be somewhere secluded and quiet.
Yeah, same here.
Because I get too distracted easily.
Yeah.
And that's why my office is back there in a cube. Because if I see things happening or hear things, I'm like, oh, what's going on? What's happening? Is something fun happening out there?
I'm missing out on it.
We got to talk about the fun we had yesterday.
Okay.
What you guys want to tell everyone about the game we played?
Yeah. So Rebecca, our children's pastor, got this game a while ago, and our intern and I, Jack, one time opened it up, and she wasn't trying to play it, but we call it chicken golf now.
But why did he open it up? Like he was just curious?
Just curious,
Okay.
because it was for the church picnic. She bought all these games. And so she was like, how do you play this? And so it's chicken golf.
Mm-hmm.
There's a hole about this big, probably about 8 inches, maybe.
A disc.
A disc.
It's a target.
A disc. It's a disc.
Yeah, but it is technically a hole
It's
because
a
you're playing
hole.
golf with it.
Yeah. And so basically the way you play is one person throws it, and wherever it lands is where the hole is. Then everyone has a rubber chicken, and you just throw it.
Yeah. So I thought it was kind of like a little bit like bocce ball.
A little bit.
Except with chickens.
Rubber chicken.
It was
Because I always play, I don't know, bocce ball is supposed to be played on a court.
Yeah,
but if you're the backyard bocce ball, I feel like you play it kind of the same way.
It was like bocce ball, but with disc golf rules.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what was funny is at one point the disc was thrown into the lobby, and we were in a hallway just hurling these rubber chickens, and we go in the lobby, there's a couple ladies sitting there just looking,
watching chickens fly through the air.
Yeah.
And then all the staff come out throwing rubber chickens. I'm like, wonder what they were thinking.
We do work, I promise.
Yes.
But we had to verify that this game would be fun for kids.
It is fun.
That is
very important.
work.
Yeah,
that's
it's-
work. Youth ministry and children's ministry need to know
Yes.
these games. And speaking of games and youth ministry, I have a game for you today.
All right.
All right. So I have here, and I'm excited about this.
For John and I. He has got to help me out here.
John may know some of these because he's.
I did look through the book last week,
Yeah.
so this is really for you, Steve.
Okay, because
this is gonna be fun.
This is gonna be fun. So
I've read some of it.
So this is the word according to Gen Z. So Generation Z are teenagers today.
Okay, so we got the boomers, we have
Gen X,
Gen X,
millennials,
Gen
Z.
Z, and then
What are the new ones called?
I thought it was like a Gen X.
I should know.
Wait, did that already?
We already had Gen
said
X.
that one?
Yeah.
Gen Y. Is it Gen Y one?
Maybe.
Matt? You're supposed to Google
Hey,
this stuff for us. What
Type
are you
this into
here
Google
for?
real quick.
Does Gen Y exist?
Does Gen Y exist?
And why do we need the alphabet for it? Why?
I don't know.
And
What are you a millennial, Steve?
I'm right on that border.
Okay. So
Yeah.
what do you
Like millennial and Gen Z.
What I
Steve is younger
relate
than
to,
all of us.
I definitely relate to the millennials more because my wife is a millennial as well. So
I can see that.
You are related to her.
that's complicated, right? Are you related to your spouse?
All right.
Two become
Oh, yeah.
one. So yes.
Millennials is also known as Gen Y.
Okay.
Okay. So
So
As in generation, why do we even exist?
wait. So Y Z. So is it back to A? Is that what we're
the
doing?
baby
The
boomer
alphas.
generation is really it covers a lot of years. But not every generation covers the same amount of years. I don't know why that is. It makes no sense to me at all.
I thought it did. I didn't know.
Matt, can you verify that for us?
Maybe.
He's busy pushing buttons.
He's busy pushing buttons.
He doesn't like this job. Sorry, Matt.
So the Gen Z, back to our game.
Yes.
Gen Z Bible. You know, every generation has their own slang, And, we could probably come up with some good millennial slang, but I'm going to read to you some verses that are written in Gen Z translation.
Okay.
And then next to it has the ESV, which is the translation I use. So your job is to try to guess what verse is this that I'm reading in Gen Z.
Okay.
All right. So the first one I have to say is probably the easiest. All right.
Okay.
Since day uno, there was God.
Yeah.
Jesus was chilling with God, and Jesus was God.
Yeah. Genesis chapter 1.
No.
John.
John.
Oh,
1.
John chapter 1. My bad.
So yeah, it's in the beginning was the
Yes.
Word. The Word was with God.
I don't know
The Word
why
was
my
God.
mind immediately went to Genesis.
1. Yeah.
You heard it in the beginning.
I heard in the beginning and
In
my
the
mind
beginning.
turned off.
All right. This is a good one. This was my favorite. I got your holy scripts padlocked in my chest thumper.
That's a really good one.
The real game is trying to say these without laughing.
I know.
Is what I need to do. I can give you the ESV.
Okay.
You ready? So this is Psalm 119:11. I have stored up your word in my heart
Yes.
that I may not sin against you. I
Yes.
love that they use chest thumper as heart.
Yeah, when I heard that, I was picturing like a treasure chest.
Could you-
I wasn't thinking like
Oh,
chest.
like chest, a
I was
chest.
thinking like a treasure chest, like a chest thumper. Like I don't know why I was thinking that.
Could you
but
imagine
It makes a
if,
lot more
like,
sense.
in like the real world, people talk like this, like going to the doctor and he's like, "Yeah, your chest thumper's not doing too good. We got to give you some new medicines." Like, did you? Like,
Yeah. Well, because I was thinking of like the verse about the where your treasure is, your heart is also. So I was
Yeah.
thinking. Oh,
This game's really hard just
Yeah,
because
'cause I wasn't
it is
thinking that direction.
Really out there.
yeah.
how afraid are you of like just really making God angry right now? I'm kidding. I'm being
Not at
silly.
all.
I'm not being serious.
I'm not at
but-
all.
All right. This is a really good one. You ready for this?
Mm-hmm.
Moo Moo food goes bye-bye and pedal pads take an L, but God's scripts are perm.
Whoa.
What'd you say?
Maybe Isaiah. I don't
we
know.
hear-
Where
oh,
would it be?
yeah.
I have no idea.
Can we hear this one again? Can we hear?
Yeah, all right. So Moo Moo food goes bye-bye and pedal pads take an L, but God's scripts are perm.
Wow. That's crazy.
You had the book right.
Okay. I couldn't tell you anything more.
Do you think you know what the verse is trying to say?
No, not even close.
All right, so
But permanent. I mean, I know that
Perm.
last
Moo
one.
Moo food.
God's
I'm
scripts
guessing
are
it's
perm.
not. I'm guessing it's
Grass,
not talking
right?
about hair.
No. So Isaiah 48. The
Okay.
grass withers, moo moo food, grass. The flower fades, pedal pads. But the word of our God will stand forever.
I would have not guessed grass is moo moo food.
Moo moo food.
I was thinking something completely different.
Oh,
What were you thinking of?
Like I was thinking like a like frou food or something like something fancy maybe.
I was thinking a
Fancy
hamburger,
food.
but
Were
that's
you?
not what cows
Oh
eat.
yeah,
It's food made out of cows.
I was thinking like fancy type food.
But they didn't eat hamburgers in the
Moo moo
Bible.
food.
so.
One thing that makes this even more difficult is it's all written in like this old English font. I don't know if you can see that. Like it
This
makes
is
it even
hilarious.
harder to
Yeah.
read because it like doesn't make sense and
Yeah.
the font's weird. All right, you ready for this one? Mm-hmm. All right. God's manual straight up slaps and CPRs my body brain.
Whoa.
Do you know what slaps means? Like if you said like that slaps, is that good or bad?
That slaps. That's good.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
And CPRs my body brain.
James.
ESV translation says Psalm 19:7.
Okay. That
The law of the Lord is perfect, reviving the soul. The testimony of the Lord is sure, making wise the simple.
okay. I was thinking like so that makes sense as Psalms because it's something that's like straight just telling you how to live your life.
Yeah,
You know.
yeah.
A very practical book of the Bible.
I do like I think the word slap should be used more often.
Slaps.
Yeah, the word of the Lord slaps.
Yes.
All right, last one. I got the last
Okay.
one for you.
Let's
All
hear
right?
it. Yep.
Okay. He doctors your saddies and band-aids your boo-boos. What do you think?
Wow. Okay.
He doctors your saddies and band-aids your boo-boos.
Huh.
Is Gen Z also trying just to sound like a toddler? 'Cause that's what I'm getting from this.
I'm feeling.
It definitely feels that way. I couldn't even really give you a guess on that one.
This is
Man.
Well, I'll save you here.
Okay.
It's Psalm 147:3. He heals the brokenhearted and binds up their wounds.
Okay. Yeah.
Can you imagine? if,
Doctor's
like,
my saddies.
Do you know how many Gen Z people teens are probably going to watch? It's like, we don't talk like that.
Yeah, it would be fun to have a Gen
But that's
Z
what we
in
hear.
here represent and see if they even understand what it's talking
Yeah,
about.
it
Like,
would be.
translate this for us.
I wonder if someone was Gen Z sitting here, if they'd do really well at this game.
Where's
Yeah.
Jack?
Yeah.
Let's get.
I know.
This is a good day for Jack to be
It
here,
is
and he's
a good day
not.
for Jack to be here. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the sermon,
Okay.
if you're good with that.
We'll see.
Okay, so my question here is I wanted just an opportunity, since you work a lot with teens and you just are gonna go back to DC, which I'm excited about,
Yeah.
and that's awesome. So, what are some ways that we can teach our kids, the teens, or your kids, or any students, that words are important? What are some ways that we can help that next generation to
Yeah.
understand that,
And that's
or to see it?
Yeah, I mean, first, you have to model it, obviously. And that's why James is so big on,
Yeah.
us as Christians, we have to model what this looks like. And
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest issue nowadays with how they're growing up in a world where a lot of communication's done
Yeah.
over the phone. Because like I said on Sunday, it's difficult because when you're typing, you're not looking at a person. So it's a lot easier for me to be harsh and be reactive when I read something, and I can react to it in a different way, rather than if I was looking at you, looking at your eyes and, seeing a person,
Yeah.
I may react differently. One thing I always tell teens regardless though, is because sometimes we're just so impulsive with everything,
Yeah.
especially at that age, is every day you're making decisions, hundreds of decisions, and that's even with your words. And so when something comes up and maybe you want to react in a certain way, the best thing, and I know this may sound corny, is literally just take a pause and be is what I'm about to say going to glorify and honor God?
Yeah.
And if it takes a minute to think about it, it's probably not.
Yeah.
And I also say, and at the end of the day, just reevaluate all the things, the interactions that you've had, and been
Yeah.
man, would I have done anything differently? And how can I grow and be better the next day? But it's difficult. But the biggest thing is just modeling that, but also just telling them to slow down,
Yeah.
and not be so reactive and impulsive. Which in a world that moves so fast today, that's difficult to say.
So when you were a student in youth ministry, did you listen to the advice that your youth pastor gave you?
Probably not. Probably not. Most of the time, I probably wasn't even listening.
Yeah.
And that's always sometimes the frustrating thing. Sometimes with youth ministry is it's a lot of the things you say may just go over their heads, but
Yeah.
you know that there's certain things that will stick with them, and that you're planting seeds. I always tell our youth workers
Yeah.
hey, we're planting seeds that during this 4 years of high school we may not see, but down the road
You
do.
most likely will not see.
Yeah,
I mean,
you may,
there's always those students who get it and put it into action right away, and you're
Yes.
just wow, this feels so great.
Yes.
So you kind of have to take that and just take your wins when you can.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because there are some that will take it, and you can tell they're actually listening to you.
Yeah.
When you're speaking, you can tell which ones are actually actively
Yeah.
listening to what you're saying.
Have you been in youth ministry long enough where you have students who are now, graduated and starting their own lives, and have come back to you for either for advice, or have said, man, you made a really an impact on my life?
Yeah. I've been in this 10 years now, doing 10 years. And I realized I was in it for a while when I started getting I had an Army recruiter call me one time, hey, so-and-so listed you. I'm oh my goodness. He was in middle school when I started. Now he's going into the Army. But I've had quite a few come back to me and I even just want to share wins in life with me.
Yeah.
They'll just be hey, I just want to let you know, I got engaged and all this stuff and different things like that. So it's cool to see ones that you've had doing well in life.
Yeah. That's awesome. And I know that for me, I've definitely been invited to weddings of previous students, or seen them have kids.
Yes.
And, it's just cool to be part of someone's life and pour into them in a way that like you're trying to be a positive influence. I mean, that's hugely important. So why are our actions more important than our words? You talked a little bit about, I mean, you kind of skirted this issue in your sermon. But it's definitely, an important part when you kind of talked about the tree analogy.
Oh yeah. And that's the biggest thing is because, we can say all we want that we are something, but if our life isn't showing it. And that's why I love that illustration James uses with the fig tree and it's bearing olives.
Yeah.
It's like, that's as crazy as saying like, I'm a Christian, but I'm like tearing people down with my words.
Yeah.
Like your fruit's not showing what you're saying.
Yeah.
And so, and that's just a constant thing James just talks about. It's like, do it, not say it.
Yeah.
And so, when it's holding your tongue, he's like, hold your tongue and do it. The wise know that my actions are better than what I say.
Right. It just, what it makes me think of just being in the church world for a long time and seeing a lot of different Christians, different types of Christians, people who come to the church who are trying to get something out of it. You see the Christians who like can recite the Bible almost word for word to you, but then you see them just be a jerk to someone and you're like, man, you know everything about scripture and you can like memorize it, yet you don't know how to actually live it out. I'm not sure if you guys have witnessed people. John is shaking his head right now. It's not coming on camera because Matt hasn't hit the button. Did he hit it?
How can you tell?
We can't tell. Is it on John?
We
Is
didn't
it
get
on
a tally
us?
light.
Yeah. There you go. But yeah,
But yeah, I mean, I've seen that many times. People who been in church forever, have done it all, but still is like, have you applied it? Or, and not even like lead things too. It's like they just want to. Yeah.
And the opposite's true. Like you sometimes we'll see these people who are very young in their faith, but you can tell that it is just a radical, day one to day two change, and they don't have the years of Sunday school and all the knowledge, but there is this, just something in them. Right. And, I think that's the difference between, stepping into the faith with more of a religious approach, being like, oh no, I'm going to do all these things to try to prove that I'm good enough, versus just realizing the grace that God has given you. And that's going to make you, just recognizing the grace God's given you should cause you to want to give people more grace.
Yeah.
And it's that, you can't lean so far into the headiness of our faith that you forget the heart side of it.
It's extremely important, right? You have to have, not only do you have to know, but you have to show too.
Oh yeah.
And that rhymed unintentionally.
Know and show. Sponsored by
let
Dr. Seuss.
Steve reads the Genesee Bible, and the next thing we know, he starts rapping. So.
Yeah.
He's coming up with his own translations over here.
So my last name is Holman, and there's a publisher, a Bible publisher called Holman Bibles. I'm not related, but
that you know of.
That I know of. Probably somewhere, but I've always thought it'd be really funny to put out like a book of just like my little one-line pieces of wisdom.
And then people see Holman on it.
People see Holman, and they think that it's
kind of
like
genius.
Yeah, they think it's like associated with them, but it's
and just have AI
write the whole thing.
Write the whole thing for you.
Yep.
Okay.
Like take the way I talk and write
theirs
this.
is the Holman standard version, so I could just be like the Holman not so standard.
Yeah. Okay, so in your sermon, you talked a little bit about being salty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't be salty.
So why
it got
is-
lots of laughs.
Can
by the
you
way.
explain what
I
that
did
means?
not. I went back and listened to it. But it could have been that the mic in the audience wasn't turned up.
That's true.
Enough.
'Cause
Now, were you
That generally does happen.
Were you
though.
telling
Yeah.
people not to consume so much sodium?
Well,
or
that-
what,
yeah,
what, what
of course.
What does
Yeah, I
"don't be
mean-
salty" mean?
It means don't eat a lot of sodium. It's bad for you.
Okay, good.
we don't want high blood pressures.
Yeah.
Watch your health here. All right.
Yeah. So no, my question is, why is it so easy to be salty? Why do you think it's so easy?
Well, it's the earthly wisdom. It's the first thing that James says that earthly wisdom is jealousy.
Yeah.
That we are just prone to be jealous. Like if someone else is succeeding, it's really easy for in our mind that should be me,
Mm-hmm.
rather than be like excited for that person. And like you see it everywhere. I mean, like I've struggled with it too. Like when you see people succeed, like
In what
being
way?
salty.
Like succeed in what way, you think? Like
Well,
money or
Well, yeah,
their,
even
their
like-
actions are something you like, man, I'm jealous that they are able to do that
or even like praise, money, jobs, like job
like
opportunities.
if I only had that.
Yeah. Or like, why?
So, like, kinda
why-
like
that should
coveting,
be me.
wanting that.
I'm better than that person.
Okay.
Like, I could do that better. And that's
Yeah.
kind of like what I think is like salty, which is that like jealousy.
It's like when you can't be happy for someone, like, Steve, you come to me and say something good happened in your life. And my first thought was like, well, nothing's good happening in my life, right?
Yeah.
Versus celebrating with you. Like
Yeah.
I first look at my life and I get upset, that is such a, we're called to consider others higher
Yeah.
than ourselves. Right. But you just came with
Yeah.
something happy. And my first thought was me,
Yeah.
that's
Who are the Reds' biggest rival? Like who's the team that
For the longest time, the Cardinals.
Cardinals?
This
Okay.
year,
Here we go.
So-
So can you be
not
happy?
so much this year.
not
but-
this year.
Can you
but-
be happy for John? So John's a Cardinals
So
fan.
I-
Can you be happy for him if his team wins?
Not when they beat the Reds.
Not when they beat the Reds.
But I got a good example of this. All right. So the Cardinals.
So would it mean you've arrived in life if you could be happy for John if they won the World Series beating? Well, they couldn't
Well, they
beat
can't
the
beat the
Cardinals.
Reds. They
Yeah.
can't beat the Reds, but like no, like if the Cardinals when they were in the World Series, like I find myself rooting for them because they're like they're my
They're out.
rival, but they're still the
Really?
NL Central. Yeah.
So I've got so
I couldn't do that.
So the Cardinals' real rival is the Cubs. The Reds think it's them, but it's the Cubs. All right. The Cubs went so long without winning a World Series, and they finally won the World Series a few years ago.
Yeah.
And obviously, I didn't root for the Cubs, but I have a lot of friends who are Cubs fans, and I was happy for them, right? Because just to get to see them have that amount of joy, so it's weird. You can be happy for people without being like happy about the thing at the same time. I can say I recognize that you're experiencing something that is really cool to get to experience, and I'm glad you get to experience that. At the same time, we'll crush you next year. There's like this.
now the real question is, as an Ohio State fan, would you ever be excited
For
for
Michigan?
Michigan? And I would say absolutely not.
Okay.
I'll say the Ohio
Fair
State
enough.
fandom, like the rivalry between Ohio State and Michigan, is like the first thing that I always question people's salvation when that like comes around every year. I'm like, I thought we were Christians here. Hey, geez,
Yeah. Yeah.
It's the game, man. All right.
it's bigger than the Super Bowl.
Oh, don't be salty.
Don't be salty. That's the thing. Okay.
Lots of laughs for that one, Stevie. I don't think you heard it, but
I did hear it.
I'm surprised you didn't hear it out in the lobby. How loud people.
Well,
were.
no, I didn't hear that, but I heard the "you guys can laugh now."
Oh.
I heard that part.
You know
I
when
don't
jokes
remember
are
if I was
good.
in the I think I was actually in the worship center because like I'm all over the church on Sunday. I don't really get to stay in one place
Yeah.
very long.
Yeah.
But I did hear you say that, and it's not a good sign when you have to tell people they can laugh.
I figured. Oh, I did
It's
that
funny, I
every single
promise.
one.
Guys, that was funny.
Yeah. Hey, you guys can laugh. It's okay. I know you're holding it back. They were holding it back was the problem.
That was, yeah.
So I
could
just let them
totally
know
tell
it's
that.
okay. It's just a
Yeah.
safe space to laugh.
So I don't know if it would be more appropriate for me to be honest or care for you in this moment and agree with you. What would my words be better? I feel like in a moment like this, I just agree with you.
There you go.
And
That was funny.
Yeah, I agree.
Sure.
Okay, so here's one. This question's about more of the like application point of like if you are living this out, how you can be an influence. So, who in your life, other than a family member, has been the biggest influence on your life personally?
Oh man, that's a difficult one.
It doesn't necessarily have to be the biggest, but up there
there.
in
Yeah.
the biggest influences.
I'd say the first pastor I worked with, Lonnie.
And why?
Well, I mean, he's been a family friend for a long time, and in fact, he was the pastor who called us out to Arizona.
Yeah.
And so when I was a teen, went out there, and then like he was the first one to like give me an opportunity in ministry, even like when I had like no education in it. And he just like took me under his wing there. I wasn't there for a long time because I was seen as I was like basically like a youth intern there. But even today, like I remember I had like a marriage counseling I did marriage counseling for someone for the pre-marriage counseling for the first time. And like, I call him about those things sometimes still, like, hey, like, what do you do? And so Lonnie. And then like, there's a couple others like Luke, who is another pastor. And another big one is Ben Smith. And I think I've mentioned him on before in Mount Vernon. He was a leader up in Mount Vernon. And then he used to be a youth pastor at a really large church. And man, like that guy, like the influence he had on my life there in Mount Vernon, like he still calls me weekly. Yeah. And it's just like, how are you doing, man? What's new with you? So.
Yeah. What's interesting to me about this idea and this concept of like people you look up to is generally they have to be quite a bit older than you too. You know, like I feel like it's harder to take advice from someone that you feel is like at the same place in life. Mm-hmm. That's probably just a little bit of jealousy getting in there, you know, of like I shouldn't, like, this is not the person. I can't get myself to that level to like say, hey, how would you handle this? Like, it's got to come up kind of more natural.
It's not even just that. It's like the likelihood that person has figured it out is increased if they're older than you know, because they've been through more than you. You know, so if I wouldn't go ask somebody, you know, who hasn't had kids advice on parenting, I would go find that person that has 10 kids and all of them have been successful, and I would go, hey, how did you do that? You know, obviously that person's probably going to be older than me because I have, you know, a 3-year-old, you know. So I think I don't know that that's so much jealousy as it is just practicality. You're more likely to get good wisdom. Sure. But every once in a while you meet that person who's like, you're really wise for someone who hasn't done anything yet.
Wise beyond their age.
Wise beyond your, how did, who taught you? And then you find who taught them. And you go to that person.
I think I'm maybe like specifically speaking about like the work world. Yeah. You know, because I know that like I've gotten together with like a lot of people who do the same thing that I do. And when I do, and I get together with someone who's maybe like younger than me, or in a different context, but maybe be on the same level than me, and they start telling me how to do my job, I automatically go on the defensive a little bit. Yeah. You know what I mean? I think that's what I'm speaking to, of like, I shouldn't, and I should be comfortable enough with myself to be able to listen to that. But immediately I want to fire back of like how I do it. Yeah. Like I'm already thinking of how to respond to you. I'm not listening to what you're saying to me.
Yeah. We had
I'm definitely guilty of that.
We had an interesting experience with that. The last church I was at, we had this, it was one of my interns, like he was in college, like second year in college, and he sat in on like this really important like meeting about this, I think it was building, like we were building. Yeah. And he was every other person. Shut your mouth. Every other person I kept like, I had to have a hard like conversation with him. At the same time, it's like, hey man, we want you to feel confident. But like he was like, no, don't do it like that. You have to do it like that. I'm like, and I remember it just got so awkward, but like he didn't like read the room. But I remember I just kept looking at him like, shh, please stop talking.
Yeah.
Stop
so you actually went to him afterwards? And
and just talked to him and said,
how did he take it?
Really well, actually. Okay. Really well. Cause I was like, hey, this is a place out of love and I want you to succeed.
But I feel like not everybody can do that. And it's taken. I feel like you have a good personality for doing things like that.
It's difficult.
You're easy to talk to.
Yeah. Well,
now John, on the other hand, no, I've heard that we want our psychologist, let's say. I mean, maybe you have a counselor or psychologist you go to from time to time, but we want our psychologist or counselor to give us advice, and they often ask us questions and want to listen, and we want our friends to listen, and they often give us advice. So really the best thing for us to do as friends is really just to listen and ask questions. Mm-hmm. But as men, it's oftentimes we want to help you solve the problem, and we really should be people who listen more often and empathize. Women tend to be better at that than men. Not in all cases, but in a lot.
Because we just always want to fix things. So we immediately start thinking of ways to fix it. And be like, well, just do this. Just do this, you know?
Yeah.
When most times I'm like, no, just listen. Just understand me. And sometimes it's hard for us to understand.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Okay. Why is social media toxic for teens?
Yeah, it just goes back to what I said before, but one thing I've seen since like the rise in social media, like when I was a teen, like anytime there was like a youth group function, like I was there.
Yeah.
Because that was like the only time you got to hang out with your friends, or like a school function. Like we didn't miss stuff like basketball games because, you know, we didn't have this. And I feel like that's replaced a lot of like the social interactions, because I've seen in teens, they're okay with not doing things because social interactions with them is scrolling on their phone and hitting like buttons and different things like that. And it's like,
Yeah, can you explain that to us a little bit? Why, like, what does that mean for like a teen and their social experience is on the phone? Because I think parents may have a hard time, or older adults may have a hard time understanding that concept.
yeah, I mean, one, it's just not genuine social interaction
Yeah.
or relationship, because it's all very surface level of like, I'm posting this picture hoping a lot of people like it, rather than I want to go hang out with friends and just, you know, go on adventures. Like we just like I don't see that much anymore, like that spirit of adventure. Now I was like different where I loved music and I played in bands, and so like I went to shows every weekend. I mean, you see some of that culture kind of like dying just because like I don't believe like kids get out and do those things anymore. I may be wrong about that.
Do they see it as like, I don't want to do this, or this is a risk for me to go out and do that thing, or it would take too much effort, or I can just experience this on my phone?
Yes.
Which all of the above?
I think a little bit of all of it.
Yeah.
And, you know, that may just not have been a great example. I'll just give an example of my personal life and things I did that you just, you know, you just don't see him going out as much as we did. Like, and we even have like the mall is another great example.
No, I would agree with that too. It's like I
malls
feel
are
like
dying.
Well, I feel like friend groups are shrinking.
Yeah.
You know, like when I was in high school and stuff, like I don't even know how we got together and did things. Like, I'm just thinking back now, like you'd right now, if we all want to get together, we all text each other and come up with a plan, or we post an event on Facebook and we all, you know, can put information about it. But you must have had to have tried really hard back then to get everyone together, and you just don't have to put the same effort in.
There's this weird thing where kids are busier now than they've ever been, but it's because it's not that they're necessarily busier, it's that they're filling their life and their time with social media. And so like it seems harder now to get together with people because you're like, oh, we have to make a plan and do it. But if you didn't have that, think about how much time in your day that, you know, and I think back when I was a kid, how much time I felt like I had during the day. You know, days were so much longer than they are now. It's because I didn't have that thing sucking the time. So it was easier to be more flexible and be like, oh yeah, we're just going to get together and I'm going to walk over to there. There are actually some statistics that, Andrew, go to your point, which is the number of teens driving and getting their driver's license has decreased, and teens working has decreased. And like, I don't know about you guys, but like, I wanted a car when I was 16 so I could hang out with my friends. And if I don't feel that pressure to hang out, I'm not going to go get my license because I can text. Why do I need to drive? And the reason you got a job was to pay for the car. So like, it kind of makes sense if kids are not hanging out. That's why you see those other two things, you know, going down.
Yeah.
Definitely. I agree with that.
Yeah, and I don't want to be sitting here like being the one like poo-pooing and all, because like
Back
social
in
media is
my
not
day.
all bad. You know, I'm not saying like things were the best when I was a teen either. There was things that weren't great either. I'm just there's always toxic sides to everything.
Yeah. So I agree with you. I see the toxic side of social media as the getting your self-worth from what you post, and then also what we talked about before is that person's life is so much better than mine, and the reality you're putting on Facebook is not even remotely close to the reality that you're living. Right. So to me, it's giving a false sense of reality that's very toxic, because you're taking this false sense of reality and saying that's how my life should look.
Right.
And then the need for instant gratification on the likes and the followers, and that's all artificial as well.
Right.
People with some of the worst content have some of the most followers, so it's not based on things that actually are meaningful in life. And I've also seen some like documentaries on younger social media stars and how just my mind is blown. Like if that was my kid, I would immediately, move to the mountains and like just disconnect from everything. Cause I'm just like, I can't even believe how hurtful and harmful this stuff is for these teens in their life that are making, hundreds of thousands of dollars on the social media influence that they have. And the parents don't see it. It's incredible.
No.
Or they see it and they think it's a good thing still. Like that's what blows my mind. They're like proud of this, and it's
So just to give a little bit of an example of something that I saw, it was like they were talking about what kind of influence this person does and what they post and all this stuff, and talking about the followers, and then they asked them the question of like, how does this make you feel? And they were more insecure, more wanting a sense of like reality more than anyone else. And it in lives of the average teen, they would look at that person and say, this is what success looks like. This is who I would like to be, someone who has tons of followers. And their life was probably more empty than the people watching and following them.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, everything you post, like they post, is just a very small glimpse, and it's not even like reality. It's like never reality. And I always like tell teens too, like for a long time, I don't think this is a trend anymore, but there's this trend of they would post on their story like TBH, to be honest, or like,
and it wasn't honest,
or give me a rating, basically. And it was allowing like people to like message them anonymously and like give them a rating 1 out of 10 and like just tear them apart. I'm like, why would you even like? Who cares what people like? I always tell them like, who cares? But like they were doing it like, but that's what social media is. I want people to tell me like how great I am on social media. And that was back then. I don't know if that's still a thing anymore, but they're just trying to validate themselves with things they post and people, what they say online, and it's not good.
Right. Yeah.
For the most part, it's not good.
Yeah. You talked a little bit in your sermon about, being good with yourself, being good with your family. Do you remember talking about
the peace? When I was talking about peace?
Yeah, peace, exactly.
So that's actually a sermon series I did one time with teens.
Yeah.
Is what makes you happy, and it ultimately comes down to like peace with God, peace with others, and peace with yourself, which is like ultimately the great commandment, like love God, love others as yourself. And I'm like, if you don't have peace with one of those, it's all going to be off. I
find it most difficult to be at peace with myself at times. That one can be very difficult because it's the longest of the journees to become at peace with yourself, and sometimes it really just takes time.
Well, yeah, and that's the thing is like, when we talk about what we say, like even what do we say to ourselves, like our inner self too, sometimes like we're so hard on ourselves, and to get to that place to understand who you are and your identity in Christ, it is a long journey. Yeah. It's sometimes a lot easier to see that in other people than yourself.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think that's to me, I mean, probably because it's a personal message, but that was one of the messages I always try to drive home with students, is that find your identity in the one who created you, not in anybody else. And if you can find your identity in that, then it doesn't matter the circumstances that you're in, that God created you exactly the way that you are. He did not make a mistake. And we often want to be something we're not. But if we find our identity in Him, that never changes, because He never changes.
I just saw a new series. Let Jesus be your influencer and tell you who you are.
There you go. That's a good one.
Not let trolls be your influencer.
Yeah. Okay. So I have one last fun thing here, because you talked about this in your message, a little bit about. I can't even remember what the first social media you ever had. I can't remember the name of it. Xanga. I don't remember Xanga, but I do remember the other one, MySpace. I remember MySpace, but I couldn't find your MySpace account.
I pull it up every once in a while. It's weird because like
exists?
It still exists.
Okay. Well, what I did, since I'm friends with you on Facebook, I went back and I pulled up your first picture. This is 683 of 683. Could you tell me, can you explain, is that your knee in the front, by the way?
That is my knee. So that's actually in Arizona at my
probably
granny's
can't
house.
show everybody this picture. Is it okay if I show
Oh, yeah,
them?
yeah. I don't care. I don't
Here,
care.
send it to me. I'll overlay it.
Yeah, so
There you
here,
go.
I'll show you guys.
That's a great picture.
And you can tell that's an old phone.
Here, I'm gonna
Like
show it to Matt.
that's a flip phone camera right
Should I
there.
also
So
should I also
explain-
find Steve's first picture and do a side by side?
Oh, yeah,
that's
please.
That would be fun.
That's good.
I need
All
to actually. I need to go into Facebook and delete some pictures
Before I get
before
him.
John gets
Matt,
there.
quick, get me Steve's first
No,
profile
don't do that,
picture.
Matt. See, look, all you have to say is "Don't do that," and Matt actually
Matt does
starts
it.
working.
It starts working. Oh man. No, so what's going on in that
Yeah,
photo?
what's going on in this photo? Okay, I'm just going to explain to everyone. John, maybe he's going to
Yeah.
put a picture of it, but he looks a little bit like he's half asleep, half in pain, and his knee looks giant and kind of hairy in the front.
Oh yeah, yeah. So this is in Arizona.
And is this shirt, is it a white undershirt underneath that, or is this shirt, is it a yellow shirt with like white accents?
I think it's white accents on the yellow shirt.
Okay.
From what I remember, that was like a funny shirt, like with a
I-
karate guy on. I can't remember what it said though, but it was like I always wore like just
To
like
me, it looks like pre something, but that's probably not what it says.
yeah, I can't remember, but it was. I just remember I always just wore like ironically funny like different shirts. But yeah, I'm sitting on a patio at my granny's house in Arizona. And I just always did like these like dumb smiles sometimes. I would have had to been 15 or 14,
Okay.
14 or 15.
So social media hasn't changed that much because like this is stuff that people would text to each other.
What's funny is like, yeah, that's what I chose to like. Yeah, this is my
the
profile
fir-
picture.
I'm gonna do this.
This is a
April
good-
4th, 2008.
Ooh, that's actually the year I almost actually. So I was 17, almost 17.
Okay,
so I
almost
turned
17.
17 May 1st, and I graduated.
So you
that year.
posted this picture right away. You're like, this is my first profile picture. How long had you had Facebook? Not long.
Probably not long at that point. No, because I was all on MySpace, on the MySpace kick. Now, if you can find MySpace, you'll find some of my
Some of the better
my
stuff.
emo
Oh, okay.
hardcore days with black and red hair.
I saw some other picture. You had a lot of like concert pictures
Yeah.
and things like that.
Yeah, always playing shows or going
Yeah,
to shows.
I like
so.
the one. There was one where you're wearing a black jacket and like a white T-shirt, and your hair was like really slicked back. I like that. That's you pulled it off. You, look
think I
pretty
should?
good.
You think I should grow the hair back out?
I didn't. I was going through kind of quick, so I didn't notice how long your hair was, but it looked good.
Steve's got some good ones.
Some old ones. You're looking through them.
That's
My
what's
hair
funny.
gets really curly when it gets long. Is probably what he's talking about.
What do you think James would say nowadays in James? Because I was thinking about this, like our words are so powerful, and like you can't fix them. But nowadays, like the words on social media, like what would he say nowadays? Because like people post something. Now we're looking at something in 2008, and I'm like, oh man, why did I post that picture back when I was 17 years old? With our words, they're out there. Like they're just out there. It's just interesting to think about.
I
Like,
mean, I think he says the same things. A tiny spark can set a forest ablaze, right? And think about that. And now the fact that they don't go away ever.
Yeah.
So,
well, I mean, how many like jobs now ask you for your social media URLs to be able to like look at your social media profiles before they hire you?
the fact that kids in high school and have already learned, and they've known this for a long time, to have two Instagrams, the real one and the public one.
Yeah.
Like the fact that kids know that because they know that they could get in trouble for what they post.
Can you
it's like-
find a
Because you
real one?
can have private. So
Yeah,
they,
but couldn't that still be found though?
it
or
probably
no?
can be found, but if it's locked down.
You mean you're saying that like a business employer might go on there and find
yeah,
the
like-
real one and not search for a
or
private
my
one?
real friends are going to get I'm going to be real with my friends, and
Yeah.
I'm going to put this image out there that's perfect on this other one.
Gotcha.
You just told on so many teams, John.
I've never thought of doing that myself. That sounds.
They had
kinda
a clever
dumb,
name
but-
for it. I can't remember. It's like Fakestagram or something like that. I can't remember.
Yeah.
Now parents around the world, like
Yeah,
we got
you're-
all these listeners that are going to be asking their kids, let me see all your
What are you
Instagram."
posting? It's crazy.
Well, thanks for spending some time with
Yeah.
us here today and answering some questions. Great job.
Yeah.
And thanks for listening wherever you may be listening or watching us. And I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. See you.
See you.